Okay, I was just giving you guys my take on the interview I did with In Touch last week about Ben and Jen and their marriage. So, as a divorce lawyer, I see a lot of these types of circumstances and facts show up, and they wanted my take on it, and I gave it to them. It was pretty opinionated. And that leads me to this video. This video is about my take on the success of pandemic relationships. I'll cut to the chase. I'm seeing a lot of them not work out. That doesn't mean that if you found your true love in the middle of the pandemic, it's not going to work out. It simply means that when you and the world were going through this whole insane mindset of the world might be over, relationships are going to be different, being in public is different, we can't travel, you're kind of stuck in a certain place and there's no vaccine at the time, you're in an incredibly different mindset and headspace than where you are perhaps now. Hopefully. So when you enter into these relationships where maybe you texted an ex, I think about J-Lo and Ben Affleck, maybe they texted each other and said, hey, how are you? Are you safe? How's everything going? And then, maybe they got back in touch with each other. But when you come together in such a close quarters and the world's shutting down and we're in it together and I can't travel anymore and I can't go on world tours and I'm not going to be doing this movie production site, we're all just going to be homebodies for a minute. That's a totally different world than the reality now of we can travel, we're going to work conventions, we're going to conferences, we have kids, the kids are in school, we've got a blended family. If you're J-Lo, you're going to go back on world tour, you're going to film your movies, you're going to write that album, you're going to go to all the premieres, you're going to wear all the dresses and do all the things. So if you got really accustomed to your relationship for the first 2 or 3 years during the pandemic as just being we're going to be at home together, staring at each other and snuggling the whole time, when that all passes and the clouds part and the sun shines again and everybody's back to the activities they used to do before the pandemic, that's when reality sets in. You are sharing a bunch of kids. You are going on world tour. There is traffic. There is work schedules. We're no longer going to be working from home all day. And that highlights the exaggerated problems that you never really had an opportunity to work through. And like Ben and Jen, you might not survive it. Those differences might be so big and you guys aren't going to make it. And then there's the other side where maybe you had a really great relationship start during the pandemic. And although you haven't had an opportunity to go through and have a lot of history of handling the post-pandemic world, maybe you can get through it. I don't think Ben and Jen look like they're making it if they're living separately, selling their big, huge $60 million mansion and having air kisses when they see each other at a graduation or school event. That looks a lot to me like post-divorce co-parenting. Pandemic relationships are kind of a bust. Just because you're in one doesn't mean it's not going to last, but I don't think it worked out for Ben and Jen. And I think the pandemic hid their differences until it no longer could. That's my take.